Are you a homeowner looking for a smarter way to manage your finances? The Sharp Mortgage Team will help you declare your independence from debt this July. Imagine leveraging your home's equity to pay bills or finance significant life events. A home equity line of credit, or HELOC, makes managing your debt easier and more efficient. The Sharp Mortgage Team specializes in refinancing home loans, offering tailored solutions that put your financial goals within reach. Why stress with the burden of high-interest debt when you can simplify and save? Seize the opportunity to steer your financial future in the right direction by contacting the experts at the Sharp Mortgage Team. Start your journey toward financial freedom today by visiting their website at sharpmortgageteam.com. Remember, your home could be the key to a more secure and prosperous tomorrow. The Sharp Mortgage Team, where your financial well-being is their priority.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Another summer real estate episode with our guy, Blake Ginther from the Ginther Group in Winston-Salem. Today, we have a number of things we want to get into, but let's begin where we normally do, Blake, which is another summer market update. What are you seeing right now? What should folks know about in terms of the Triad housing market as you see it?
Yeah, so right before we hit record, I confess to you that I was a few minutes late for you, right? Because I'm doing my first broker open, which for those of you that don't know, that's where we bribe other agents from several different firms to come take a look at our houses with food and gift cards. And we do this because they're not getting enough activity, and we feel that they need to see inside the home, right? And photos either aren't doing it a justice, and we just want agents to think of it, right? And we used to do that all the time. COVID kind of made that cease for a variety of reasons, and it hasn't been necessary until now. And I think for consumers to hear that, when I say it's necessary now, there's still not a lot of inventory, but there are still not enough buyers. I mean, there's just not a lot of buyers. And therefore, there's just little activity. And I think we want to make sure that agents think about certain houses, or at least have keep it in mind, or go, oh, if I got a buyer who really needs blank, this house is perfect. So and they also kind of fall close to what we were talking about, Adam, which is the $400 to $650 price point right now is really tough. There's just not, and I'm not going to say directly at $4. It can get up into the low $4s. There's less buyers in that price point. That move up buyer statistically in Winston, they're the folks who don't have a strong need. So the interest rate that they're hanging on to, combined with the inventory, just is not enough to move the needle for them. So there's a lot less buyers. And I think the vast majority of people who are moving to Winston are either 4s and below, or above that mid 6s and up. And so it's leaving a little bit of a gap for that 4s to 6s buyer.
Yeah. So two thoughts there. First of all, the broker open sounds like a golf tournament that you should have one day. Welcome everybody to the third round of the Broker Open here at beautiful Bermuda Run Country Club.
Yes, I mean, both of these houses, they were both on Bermuda Run Country Club, ironically.
I didn't even know that. That's just a happy coincidence. So my second thought on that is it logical for me to read into the fact that you are having something like a Broker Open as a way to strategize around what may be a softer market for certain price points?
Absolutely. Yes. And it has, our market started to soften, just less movement in general, less coming on, less going off around Memorial Day, which is about 3 weeks earlier than normal, right? Normally it's like mid-June, like when school lets out. So mid to late June. And then we have a summer lull, right, which is totally normal until school gets back in, which this year is super early. So we'll see if that makes things come back before Memorial or before Labor Day, which oftentimes, basically mid-June until Labor Day, it's slower.
So what should sellers be thinking about if they are in that 4 to 650 price point where the market's a little bit softer right now. There's not a lot of buyers out there in those price points. So what should sellers be thinking about as they are preparing their home to be in the right position to sell to a limited number of buyers?
I think a couple of things. There's always a range of correctness, right? And no agent you meet with should say, "Here's your magic number. It's going to sell at blank." That's silliness. We don't know. We're going to give you a range of where it could sell, right? And then ultimately, as a consumer, as a seller, I would be focusing on. We said you have to do the little things again. We've been saying that now for 18 months, but it's not enough anymore to just, paint your front door and threshold and take down your personal photos and just clean, right? That's not enough probably to be ideal showing condition, right? Now you either need to be priced aggressively if you need updates or do the updates. And that's the challenge is I think for a while there, no, I know for a while there, for about 3 years, you could have an outdated bathroom, right? You could have an outdated something in your home. You could do everything in your home, but have a couple of outdated things. And the market was such that, you could have an outdated home period and it would still sell, and you didn't even have to be at the bottom of the range. You could be in the middle or even towards the top and still sell with an outdated whatever. Though that's changed. For sure that's different now. And sellers are going to want to focus on having the home both priced appropriately or even aggressively and or do the renovations. Because specifically the owner bathroom and the kitchen, it's really tricky right now. If those are outdated, either are outdated, the price really needs to be aggressive.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit threemagnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Cetera Advisor Networks are not affiliated. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Price needs to be aggressive because buyers are a little pickier right now, and they have the ability to be pickier in certain price ranges. So yeah, you can't give somebody or don't give somebody a reason to come into your home and say, "Ooh, I don't really like that." That needs a big time update.
Yeah, for sure. They just and for the record, sellers, then maybe you're thinking, I don't want to update my house and I don't want to be super aggressive. Totally understandable. Then maybe rent it or don't sell it, right? Right now. And I'm not saying forever. I'm saying right now, it will probably pick back up again in the fall a little. And I think that come next spring, we could have that spring resurgence a little bit. It wasn't crazy this spring though, so I don't know if we should anticipate a bonanza spring this coming spring either, right? I just met with a seller who I've talked with for over a decade now about this process, and honestly, I don't think we should anticipate that market for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. It's really tough to project anything past November in an election year, right? And a lot of why this past spring wasn't as crazy has something to do with where the interest rates are. Where has your projection adjusted at all since the last time we did this podcast in terms of what rates might do in the months leading up to the election?
No, I still think I think I'm even a little more confident saying that I think rates are going to reduce. Not a lot, but a little, because I do think that overall across the country, I'm hearing more inventory, right? I'm hearing inventory rising, not to a level that we all like go in any way we are concerned, right? I have zero concerns over like, oh no, inventory is rising so fast, we're going to be in a level market like soon. But if it keeps going on this clip, we could buy for sure by Q4, and that means we'll be 4 months inventory, which would feel like a lot when we were at literally less than 2 weeks for 2 years, right? And now we're still sub 4 in our area. And to put in perspective, we're still sub 2 months. We're still like a month and a half. We're starting to creep up to 2.5 months over 4, in the mid 4s up to the mid 6s. So we're still a seller's market, but it just doesn't feel like it. So, I think interest rates will drop a little because of inventory, but also, let's face it, the number one reason why they do it isn't inventory driven, it's inflation driven. And I don't know how many affluent, super ridiculous, wealthy friends besides yourself you talk to every day, but they are not hurting. Affluent America is as they just posted, as everybody's posting, that Dow Jones, right, has doubled in the last several years. So most people who had good money put away have doubled in a 3-year period, more than doubled, right? So there's the wealth out there is not going to not stop spending because they don't have to.
Yeah, because they're not hurting. They're not hurting, as you just illustrated right there. So, Blake, did you ever have a point in your life before you met your beautiful wife where you had a roommate, where you rented an apartment, and you had a roommate at some point?
I did in college.
Yeah.
I had a roommate through college.
Did you ever consider with that roommate or any roommate to purchase a property together? Not for an investment, not as a rental property, but to live in as your primary residence.
I love that idea. And I think that if I hadn't have met my wife, I'd like to believe that like we'd be that creative. But we also moved to New York City together, and he found a different roommate because I moved in with Toby. And no, I mean, honestly, I don't know if that thought would have crossed my mind until I was, until I moved down here and got older and heard of what you just described as fractional ownership with people buying vacation homes. But I've not heard of roommates buying property together, but I love it. I think it's great.
So I read a story about something that's happening with that more nationally. It's not happening a lot, but it is starting to become something that people are looking into, especially the younger generation. We talked about how difficult it is right now for younger people that are renting to be able to afford to buy something right now and get out of that rental situation. And what it seems like is starting to happen across the country is younger people are combining resources and getting into what you described as fractional ownership, co-signing, co-borrowing for a mortgage, and going in together on a primary residence, where instead of renting a property and paying a landlord and not having any equity, they're just sharing in the costs of the ownership of a property. What are your thoughts on that?
So I really, really like it. As you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so now this is like some old dad advice. So sorry, but like maybe don't do that with a new significant other. That sounds like maybe not a great idea. I would say, I mean, if you're engaged, yeah, absolutely. And if you've been dating a long time, or fine, but I love the idea for friends. Like, I think friends buying it, and because there's an easy way out, and very rarely do you hear friends breaking up in a disastrous way that they, that it's ugly and now blankety blank, right? Normally, there aren't breakups in friendships usually, and so if you go into an ownership together, one can buy the other one out, and it can be relatively simple, right? I mean, they can get a simple appraisal for $500, and if somebody disagrees with the evaluation, right, because somebody's moving away, right? Adam, we buy a house together for $250,000. Cosmetically, it needs some love. We both put in some sweat equity. We take down the wallpaper. We do some improvements. Fast forward. And by the way, you meet somebody and you move in with them. And you leave me in there by myself, and you go, you know what, let's just see before we do anything, let's just see. And then a couple years later, you're like, yeah, dude, that was cool, I'm really glad we did that. Let's see how much the house is worth now, right? And 250 4 or 5 years from now is realistically going to be 350, right? Realistically, maybe 325. Okay, so depending on what you've done, if you put some sweat equity into it, it could be 400, right? So but either way, for easy math, let's just say it's 350, and you get it appraised, and it appraises at 325. You're like, oh man, I really wanted to be a little more than that. Seems low. And I go, hey Adam, I get it, dude. You pay for another appraisal, right? We split that one. If you disagree with the value, go get another one, right? And we'll either take the average or we'll get a third if need be, right? So bottom line is you might spend $1,500 total if you have to get 3 appraisals, and then you split the equity, and you get the tax write-off, and it will probably be, with a roommate, it will be less expensive without a doubt than renting.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're not getting all of the investment and equity benefits as the sole owner of the property, but it's whatever your fraction of the ownership is, it's still going to get you better than what you pay, but then rent where it's zero, right?
100%. Yes. Well, I was going to say 100%, but that's not true. It'd be 50% or 33%. but it's just a habit. So yeah, I think that doing it, I love the idea of 2 people buying a home together, 2 friends, right? Buying a home together instead of renting. They're like, hey dude, you know what? We were going to rent for a year or 2. Let's buy a home. And you don't, by the way, have to, as long as you can agree to hold on to the home for a few years, even if you don't want to live in it. That's the other thing, is you guys can be co-landlords, and you don't even have to physically be there to be landlords. You can hire a property management company. That same example I just gave you, a 3-2, $250,000 house, you put some sweat equity into it. It's, you could sell it pretty quickly and make very little money and sell it in the upper 2s. And you're like, or you could rent it, like for 100%, you could rent it for $2,000 to $2,200, and more than covers your mortgage, and you let somebody else pay it down. And then, a couple years from now, one of you needs the cash, and you buy the other one out. It's absolutely a smart play. I love it. And I think that as hard as it is for the younger generation with rates, to get that, and with interest student debt, I think it's an absolutely great play.
Life is full of celebrations, birthdays, holidays, life milestones, and so much more. And who has been helping generations of families celebrate these events? Our friends at Dewey's Bakery. And even if you aren't planning for something in the near future, you don't have to wait to enjoy something savory and delicious from Dewey's. Maybe you just need something to get you through your Mondays. Drop by every Monday for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary. Just come celebrate the start of a new week. So, if you're hearing this ad on a Monday and you're in your car, reset that GPS and get to one of their 3 Triad locations immediately in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. And any day of the week, you can find the perfect item with fast and easy ordering options at local.deweys.com. Plus, Dewey's does so much to help celebrate our community. To date, they've given back over $4 million to local schools, churches, and other nonprofits. Your next celebration isn't complete without something special from Dewey's Bakery. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
Hey, this might be a better question for our friend Ashley from Sharp Mortgage, but any restrictions or additional obstacles that two people might have to go through if they were going in together on getting a mortgage for a home that you're aware of, or is that more a better question for a loan broker?
It's funny you say that. She actually just asked to be on our next on an episode soon. I just saw her. She was
Oh, okay.
she's the food sponsor for the other agent that I'm doing the deal with. She kind of asked me at the a couple of days ago if I wanted to be a part of it. Anyways, saw Ashley, told her I was going to be talking to you, and she said I want to come on next time. So let's bring her on. I will tell you, I think the credit, right? The credit, if one has bad credit, it could kill the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think that would be interesting to talk to her about among all the other different ways that she can be an expert on getting qualified for a mortgage and owning a home. What does it mean if you are, look, I mean, married couples put their names together on a loan. That happens all the time. That's a pretty routine thing. But if we're talking about people that are friends and are not family together, then but they both want to be a part of this so they could share in the cost. How does that work? I'd love to ask her about that.
Honestly, it's less about other than credit, it's less about a lending thing, and it's more about a title thing, right? They're going to be tenants in common versus tenants in the entirety if you're married. And so tenants in common, the challenge is it will fall to family. So if you go in with your buddy and your buddy has an accident, a terrible accident, is no longer on earth, you're now fractional ownership with your buddy's parents or buddy's next of kin.
Yeah.
And so it's a little different versus tenancy entirety, right? If something happens to a spouse, it automatically reverts to the other spouse.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll get Ashley on our next episode, talk to her about this and many other things. All right, Blake. Well, we'll let you get back to the Broker Open golf tournament. And but before we do, tell the fine folks where they can find you and your team.
Oh yeah, thank you. So theginthergroup.com, theginthergroup.com, or 336-283-8689, 283-8689.
All right, my friend. Enjoy the time as always, and look forward to speaking with both you and Ashley next month. Have a good rest of your summer.
We're gonna make it happen. You too, brother.
All right, see ya. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.